if they're not going to go for it this year, if they're not going to try and get to the playoffs this year, they should sell Gonzalez, Perez, Chapman. They should sell all three of them at the trade deadline to try and get what they can. Because listen, 3 pitchers like that should bring you back. You should be able to get a couple of AAA guys who are like on the verge of being major leaguers, okay? And then if someone knocks your socks off for Bednar or Mitch Keller, you might go for it. Go for it.
But you're not going to trade Mitch Keller.
Why not?
You just signed him to an extension, and you want him as a top 3 horse in your rotation.
I get it, but here's the thing. If the motto is, well, we're going to do it, soon, over the next year or two, and you're going to hold on to your prospects like they're gold, don't you have 2 pitchers right now that are probably half a season away from being major leaguers that are allegedly your 2 best prospects? Don't you have those guys?
Yeah, but they're prospects. Can you truly bank on them when Keller's a proven commodity as an all-star pitcher?
But that's the model. And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about Keller. They're paying him $5 million this year. Next year it goes to $15 million.
Right.
So my point is, you trade him, you got $15 million plus whatever you save on Gonzalez and Perez and Chapman for the rest of the year. And you know what? His value probably never be higher. I'd think about trading Tellez.
Well, yeah, he's on an expiring deal. I can understand Chapman. The Royals got a good piece back for him, a pitcher from Texas.
Those 4 guys are all on expiring deals.
Yeah, the expiring deals guys, I'd be fine with that. Anyone else, I would not.
Bednar, you've got a lot of young power arms. So his value to a contender probably would bring something back. You've got a lot of young power arms. Finding power arms nowadays in baseball is not hard, right? So my thing is you've got a lot of good bullpen pieces. If you trade Chapman and Bednar and they bring back, a really nice haul that of a couple of guys who maybe are now I have no interest in single-A prospects.
If you trade Chapman and you trade Keller, you're basically admitting that you're punting on next season as well.
No, not necessarily next season.
That means.
Not necessarily next season.
Why?
Because
you're trading your number 1, 2 starter and your all-star closer.
Who
you have under control for next year where you believe that you can actually make the playoffs.
Yeah, but
Bednar and Keller.
They've never had a hard time finding a power arm to be their closer.
To be a closer. No, they haven't.
They've got a lot of good young pitchers that, with power arms. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Nicholas kid by next year might be ready to be a closer. He throws it hard. He's got it, he's learning right now. That's what this second half of the season would be for.
Well, Jose Hernandez was a power arm. Same thing with Roansy Contreras. Look how they flopped out.
But I'm just saying.
Guys fail.
Those guys do. Yeah, they do from time to time. But if you start next year with Skeens, Jones, Chandler, what's the other kid's name?
Solometo.
Yeah, as your 4 starters. You can always go out and get a 5th guy like a Perez or a Rich Hill or one of these
Falter
guys.
Should be their 5th.
Or
guy.
I'm sorry, Bailey Falter. I forgot all about Falter. I mean, if you think about it, you've got Falter, Skeens, and Jones. If Bubba Chandler is who they say we're supposed to believe he is, he's your 4th starter. You can go get a Perez or a Rich Hill or a Gonzalez or one of these guys. You can go get those guys anytime you want. There's 2 things the Pirates have actually been pretty good at. A, identifying and finding closers, and B, going to the dumpster to find a 5th starter or a 6th, a veteran guy, a 5th starter, a guy maybe that was injured, coming off injury, so they can get him on the cheap, right?
Yeah, like Jose Quintana, Tyler Anderson.
Right.
Those type of guys.
And then, you know what? If they're not in it, flip them at the All-Star break, but you would hope that whoever they sign next year, they're going to actually have for the entire season. I mean, I think the ultimate example of that is Frankie Liriano.
Yeah.
They got him. Everybody was kind of like, what the hell? Guess what? He had gone through a couple of years of, I think he was where was he at? Minnesota, wherever he was at, had some bad, some arm issues and, was sort of a scrap heap guy that they got. And they ended up giving him a second contract.
Zane Grilli said with Jeff this morning that I don't know if he said he views it or they view it internally, as 2012, and that next season is viewed as 2025 is 2013, where they're close this year, but they're not there yet. They still have a little bit of growth that they still need to do before they truly understand their real potential. And if you get rid of Keller and you get rid of Bednar, that is a significant step back from reaching that potential, at least in my mind, which is why that is not even a thought that crosses my mind.
Well, again.
But Chapman, the other expiring guys, yes. If we get to the point where they're 5 under at the end or approaching the deadline, 5 or even 6 or even 4, trade them off. Acquire pieces.
What if a team's willing to give you 3 of their top prospects for Keller?
I'd have to significantly think about it, but as nice as Bubba Chandler looks in Double-A right now, I mean, we've seen the Nick Kinghams, the Jamison Tyones, partly because of injuries, but we've seen guys that were highly talented prospects flop out. The Will Craigs of the world, the Cole Tuckers of the world that we were told was going to be so good in the minors. They come up to the majors and look like they're on a different universe in a negative way and don't belong at all.
Well, that's just it. That's my point. I think honestly, if this is the new company line that Bubba Chandler and these guys aren't going to be ready for next year, then trade them.